right, good afternoon or morning or what have you, wherever you are in the world. My name is Rob Wilcox. I'm an SE with Nutanix in the Houston commercial space. And today I wanted to do something kind of building on the last video I did where we were talking about Nutanix Cloud Manager and how it's become kind of a multi-cloud environment or management plane, for your cloud environments, including your on-premise private clouds with Nutanix. So I've got three environments stood up today, and we're going to kind of go through a few things. And one, there's a lot to unpack in the new version of Prism Central. We're not going to get to all of it today by any means, but it'll give you an idea of what the tool gives you. And we're going to do a couple neat little tricks that usually you have to hop around environments or tools to do, and we're going to do it from one spot. Well, first, I'm just going to take a look here at a kind of like a architecture quick drawing of kind of what I'm looking at. So what we've done today is we have deployed a 4-node cluster in the Nutanix HPOC lab. So we'll say HPOC lab. I've got a second cluster, also 4 nodes. It was 3, but I went ahead and extended it. And this is it's an NROB, another HPOC lab. And then I have a single bare metal instance. I forgot which one it is. We'll see. It's one of the I instances, metal, in AWS. And it's all being managed by Nutanix Cloud Manager. So I'm literally communicating with all of these things. Oh, it deleted my line and re-edited it. Nice. So this is going to be one of those one-take style videos. So anything that happens, man, that happens. It just is what it is, right? One thing I do want to highlight here is because NCM handles, a lot of different components, one is DR. And so I will show you how I have things configured, replicating from here to here and here to here, using a couple of the DR technologies. And that's going to be, we'll just say DR, we'll have protection domains and policies. So I did both in NCM. We're going to look at LCM, acronyms all day, guys and girls. Lifecycle management, you get the idea. So we're going to look at a couple things there. We're going to look at some VM deployment, and we'll just kind of take a look at, what we see that's new in the UI, because I did just update the Prism Central instance. Speaking of the Prism Central instance, PC exists on this cluster today. So we'll just say our PC is here. However, our Prism Central can live anywhere. And it is offered from Nutanix as a software as a service. So depending on how you want to architect your environment, you don't necessarily have to have one NCM to rule them all, or sorry, one Prism Central. NCM would be a feature set, right? But we don't have to have one to rule them all. We can have multiples. So traditionally you might have prod and DR, and you might run an example of Prism Central on each site locally. Maybe you've got a need where you've got either some kind of organizational requirement or geographical requirement to have things split out differently. Or maybe there's a certain feature set that doesn't really work too well in a single instance yet, to where you might need to break it apart. But we're going to, assume that we don't have any of those concerns in our lab today. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like to do things through one instance. So what we got here is, let me flip screens here and click on that button there. This one here, there we go. You can see I have my Prism Central environment. I have one cluster here that is hosted, as you can see, in our HPOC lab. It's running AHV. It's on a G7 hardware platform. It's mad at something that I told it to ignore earlier. It's probably default passwords because I'm lazy and I didn't go do it because it's a lab. This one's good. And this is another one on AHV using the same G7 nodes. And then finally, this one here you can see is a AWS Z1D Metal single host bare metal instance running Nutanix. And I was hoping to showcase kind of the componentry in AWS, but I was not able to get that UI to cooperate. It's a shared instance for us SEs, and I was not able to see everything I wanted to see. So all I can tell you is it is indeed on AWS today. And this is Prism Element. You guys are probably familiar with Prism Element from using Nutanix before. We can go look at some things like, I don't know if I've run LCM on this guy. I've got, okay, there's a protection domain running, so I do have some PDs running. It's catching some replicas from another site. I do have, I thought I deployed a VM. Maybe it's still deploying. Nothing too special. It is a cluster, but to you, it's a cluster. It's Nutanix. So those familiar with Nutanix, we're treating it as if it's just another location. Now you are able to talk to some of your underlying networking in AWS. I only have one subnet created, this user VM subnet, but you can tie into those sorts of things. In Prism Central, you'll see more of the magic. This cluster here's got a little bit more going on from a VM standpoint. I've got Move, I've got some clones, I've been playing around with our X-Ray performance testing tool. And finally, this other cluster here it was provisioned for a boot camp, so it's got a bunch of our boot camp things. You can see objects is deployed, so I've got a objects bucket in there somewhere. I've built a couple VMs. You can see this one's part of a replication with a protection domain. So things are rolling. Prism Pro Lab Utility Server, that's just a little toy for us. You can see my Prism Central server here is hosted on that environment. And finally, without further ado, Prism Central. So again, I just wanted to show that I have 3 separate environments, and you can see I am talking to them via Prism Central. So here is my AWS HPOC, my bare metal that I showed you. It's yelling at resiliency because it's a single node. We like 3 because that's how our resiliency works, but this is a lab, so we don't really care. I've got my RTP POC 30 and 58, so I've got my 2 AHV environments, which would be your on-prem. And this Prism Pro cluster is part of the lab. Ignore him, he's just there. You can see I've got some latency information. I've got some alerts. I can click access. I can drill down into any of those clusters. At the dashboard level, we're getting dashboard relevant information, right? Because I'm pulling in a lot of analytics from those clusters, and I'm able to make sense of their things like their storage utilization, memory utilization, CPU utilization, IOPS, and also efficiencies of the VMs. So I was going to say inefficiency and efficiency at the same time. It doesn't work that way. So I should probably let my brain catch up to my mouth or vice versa. One thing I wanted to show is, see this non-Nutanix? This is pretty slick. So I can actually monitor and manage VMware environments too. So NCM can act as a vRealize style replacement, because we can pull a lot of that information in from VMware using their APIs into our system and give you this kind of data. We can monitor your VMs to a point. We can also get your VM efficiency and see what's over provisioned, under provisioned. Is it CPU? Is it RAM? So on and so forth. So let me go back to my dashboard because I wasn't done there. So there's my VM efficiencies. Data protection. You can see I've got 18 entities and I'm only protecting 3. Yes, that's because I only protected 3 right now. But this is the kind of high level protection dashboard. What is protected? Well, I can drill down into that and find out more later. Put a pin in that. We're going to get to some of that in a minute. So I just wanted to showcase that I do have a lot of neat things that I've bookmarked into my hamburger menu here in NCM. So we were in the dashboard. I've got my bookmarks, and I've included planning, which is the capacity planning, lifecycle manager categories, because this is a metadata-driven system. So you will create and assign categories or edit existing categories for security policies, image placement policies, storage policies, and finally, data protection policies with the underlying Leap engine, which is going to move your bits around. Discovery, this is the app discovery. So this is going to yell at me right now. I don't have some of the prerequisites ready for it because I've got to do a couple things like updates. So I have AHV, but I need to get my AOS to 6.1, which I'm not on yet. That's one of our our current short-term release build that has all the new hotness. We've had many release notes sent out on that, so if you follow me on the LinkedIn, you definitely saw them. Here, just an idea of what discovery looks like, though. It's going to discover applications and tell me what we have out there as far as things like, DNS, and is somebody running Nmap, and is there, some web services, what applications are out there on the environment, and give me an idea of their relationships as well. So I'm going to showcase this at another time. I just don't have the prereqs set up for that one. And monitoring ties into that one as well. Cost management is billing back to cost centers or showing back to cost centers and cost codes. Cluster list is a cluster list. I mean, these things are things that you might hop in and out of more frequently. Your recovery plans and protection plans, for example, VM list. But if I scroll down, you can see this is very, cloud manager like, right? Here's my compute and storage. These are the items that make up compute and storage. Here's network and security. These are the items that make up network and security. So subnets, VPCs, floating IPs, security policies. I need to ignore my telephone machine. Connectivity. So connectivity is cool. This is a new feature. We've built in gateways and VPN connections as well as subnet extensions. So layer 2 extension is here, folks. Again, I don't have everything set up to showcase that today because I wasn't really showing that, but I just want to kind of run through the list. Here's your data protection features. Protection domains, recovery plans, hardware. These become the more physical constructs, right? So we've got our clusters, our individual hosts, disk GPUs, those sorts of things. Activity, who, what's going on in my environment with, including audit trail. Any one of these items that I want to add to my bookmark, I just click the star. Operations. So this is, again, I need to now analyze and understand what's happening. Planning is something that is important as you grow. Playbooks, the ability to do actions. So if we detect something, we can remediate with reverting to a snapshot. I want to go to Action Gallery. We can acknowledge alerts. We can tie into systems like Ansible or Slack or webhooks for other systems. We can resize things. And now with these lookup cluster details, we can actually do some logic-based more just if this event happens, do this, trigger-based system. We can do things with a little bit more logic now by looking up entities that are a certain configuration and then taking an action against those certain configurations. Powering on and off VMs, adding, removing from categories. So if I'm maybe going to need to do some bulk edits on the environment, I can use that. Send alert to pager duty. So, we've got many things that you can do and kind of nest. Here's an example here. Reduce CPU for over-provisioned VMs. So on that dashboard, we saw where it said I had 2 over-provisioned VMs. Well, here is the playbook itself and what it kind of looks like. So let's go look at. So I can send an email, or just wait for day. Create a VM recovery point. Create a snapshot. Power off the VM. Change the CPU. So we're going to reduce it by a number of CPUs. Power it back on. Resolve the alert in my help desk system, and then finally send an email to let everybody know this action was taken. This is all automated. And so these kind of DevOps style tools empower you, and again, becomes more cloud-like as you grow your environment. Administration, these are things how we're going to organize. So users, roles, projects. So projects ties into this one here, the lifecycle management. So that's the self-service component that does a lot of neat things, including deploying things cloud native into the appropriate cloud and on-premise and the blueprint-based system. I don't have that set up today. Again, I'm not focused on that. It's a whole own animal. So we're not going to look into that too much. But I have files. I don't have it deployed, but I can manage it from here. I can show you all the file servers. So we finally integrated files from Prism Element where it used to live here under the file server heading. That now lives still there, but it also now lives in Prism Central where I can drill down to the file server and get a lot of interesting information about them, including configuration things. Finally, we have objects and Carbon. So high level, there's a lot of capability that you're managing with Prism Central for your private cloud environments, and we're constantly adding more things that are cloud native, such as Kubernetes containers, such as VPC management, such as VPN gateways to your clouds, such as the ability to deploy Nutanix clusters into a, oh, it kicked me out, 1 second. I had changed the UI, but maybe I forgot one to not time out so quickly. So while we're here, let's do that. We're just going to scroll down here. Y'all can just skip this part. See, I skipped one. No, I did it right. That's right. All right, I don't know why it logged me out. Whatever. All right, here we go. So I want to show you a couple things. One, let's go deploy a VM. So if I've got multiple environments and one of them just so happens to live in AWS, I might want to deploy stuff to that environment. So let's do that. Let's create a VM. So a lot of my customers are still, really familiar with the old way of doing it. I'm going to log into a Prism element. I'm going to go do things in that environment, in which you could easily do from either the clusters menu or under the dashboard, just by drilling down one of these environments here, and then going and manipulating things. Okay, I clicked here. Great, it's going to log in. I'm going to click when it's done, click the Prism element button. I'm going to drill through. So I don't need to do that anymore. I can just manage it from a native context. So let's do that. VM list. Look at this, VMware and non-Nutanix. So again, I can deploy things into a non-Nutanix environment. Unfortunately, I don't have one configured today. Had I had one configured, I could show you. The process is largely the same, except it's going to be talking to vCenter instead of Prism. So let's go deploy, let's go ahead and use that name. We'll give him a number 3. Compute, don't really care about so much. Cluster, we probably do. Let's put it in our AWS cluster. Number of VMs, just one. I can do more. We're going to attach a disk. Let's give him, one little 10 gig disk on the default container. This is where you'd see your storage containers. Oh, wait. Got ahead of myself. I need to put it on SATA. All right, here we go. One more thing, Rob. Let's go attach a disk with an image. So we are going to clone from image. We're going to specify, what do we got here? Sure, let's do Winders. Click save. We're going to keep the, also need you to be SATA, please, for that environment. We're going to keep in a legacy BIOS, but UEFI BIOS mode is supported now. It's been supported for a while. So for those that are coming from Hyper-V or later versions of ESX, they might need that. Or if you're just taking a security-focused standpoint and you want to protect your boot as much as possible, rock and roll. Categories. So had I had any, we'll just call this one development, app type, environment dev. So these are the categories, and you can build them. You see how it's name : name. So you've got a primary tag, so to speak, and then a secondary. So I can have an environment type, and then I can have multiple subtypes. So dev, prod, UAT, etc. Customization. So if I had any kind of scripts I need to do, like boom, sysprep, I can run that from here. We're not going to do that. Use this VM as an agent VM. We're also not going to do this, but it's a functionality that we have built in that it will be powered on before the rest of the VMs on a host. Basically, it's going to be a prerequisite style VM for your environment. So here we go. Summary of what we're going to do. We're going to click go. And it's going to go. There you go. So you can see up here in the task, we've done a few things, but here's our create a VM, the new one. It's going to run. And in a little bit, you can see our VM is created on this cluster, which is neat. If I scroll down, you can see all the clusters that have the different, the VMs. So I've got 30, I've got 58 here, I've got my AWS guy. We can say, okay, when he's done, I need to power it on. I need to disable anomaly detection because maybe it throws false positives because it's got a weird workload pattern and I don't want it to trigger NAV analysis. I can just disable the anomaly detection from here. Same thing for the efficiency measurement, which would actually do that. I can protect. So if I needed to, remove or add or remove from a protection policy, protection policy, we could do that from here. We can also add or remove things from a security policy with microsegmentation if I had that enabled from here as well. Or again, you could do it for those menus, but I could do it at the this VM level here. Add it to a catalog. That's really something I haven't played around with. I assume it's for self-service, but so on and so forth. I can export this VM as an OVA. So this is how I can make an OVA, and I can import it into our OVA menu. We have that. I didn't get to it. And move on. Also, you can see I can quarantine and unquarantine a VM from, again, a micro-segmentation policy. So let's say I had a catch-all, turn everything off. This guy is quarantined from the world. I can do that manually here, or again, you can rely on a policy-based system. So we're going to power him on. And it tells me it's going to do the thing. So if I go over to summary from list, you'll see here's a summary of things, by CPU usage, IO latency, memory alerts, and anomalies. Had I had any kind of anomalies that are showing up, like a weird spike in some resource that is outside of the norm this time of day, it's usually doing this and it's doing this other pattern instead. It's going to let you know those sorts of things. I meant to click on this one, policies. Affinity policies. So we can configure and create affinity policies from Prism Central now. So I can specify that certain VMs only run on specific hosts. And I can do it by category. Or I can do it by host category. So I can say this set of hosts is, for physical license, CPU licensed software, and I want something that has a tag that references that software to only tie to that host. Create. That way, anytime you deploy a VM with that tag that is, special license model tag, it'll make sure it only remains on the host that has that special license tag that you created. So pretty cool feature set there. Or it's event metrics. What do you want to see, guys? It'll show you the things, and you can drill down, okay, who's got more than 25% usage, who's got less. Granted, it's a test environment. There's not a lot going on here. So that's deploying a VM to AWS through NCM. Pretty cool. Let's go take a look at a couple other things. So I do have a recovery plan created today. I had a recovery plan created today. Where did it go? All right, fine. Let's go do it again. So we're going to give it a name. Call it test plan. And I wanted to showcase, maybe it was in the middle of, let's start with 58. I'm going to go to 30. Oh, sorry. I didn't create the recovery plan yet. I did the protection policy. Multi-DR, there it is. So you can tell that Rob's had a long day. All right, so here we go. This will show you high level at basically your SLAs. Am I missing replication? Did something fail? What's going on in that regard. I can also clone a policy, or I can update it. So you can see here under update that I'm taking 58 as my source, and every 1 hour replicate to 30. And I want to save, a couple days worth of snapshots, 1 day local, a couple days remote. But at the same time, I want to send a copy to AWS. So I'm doing the same thing. Every hour, send it to AWS. So I've got, this multi-site, multi-DR strategy. And as you can see, I can even connect the two and complete more of a mesh topology, or these two can talk to each other as well. I didn't want to really go that far, but that's what I did to get the recovery points in place. So if I were to close this, go back to my hamburger menu, we're going to go look at, not protection summary. Yeah, sure, let's go look at protection summary. You can see here I've got 3 protected entities. My RPO is, I don't have any that are not meeting it, so that's good. It's a 0. All good, no ongoing and failed replications. Everything's looking good here. So I do need to update, as you can see here, AOS to a higher version on those clusters so that I can actually, see more data, because we did make some changes to those subsystems that are a little more modern. And so for that information to come upstream, I do need to update. But you can see here, I've got this guy, and it'll see that I've got some bandwidth utilization here, but I don't have a lot until I make those updates happen, right? The protection recovery plan is the reflexive side. And I'm not really going to showcase that today. I just wanted to show that I'm getting things from one place to another one. But this is where you would configure the actual recovery location. So I'm replicating from one site Well, it's 1AZ. I've got multiple clusters because of one Prism Central, so 1AZ. But I want to go from 58, and I want to go to, again, my AWS. I want to do it manually, but I can also execute it with, more of a metro style. If I meet certain requirements, there will be a witness involved, but also there's some networking and to make sure that synchronous works. But or we'll just keep it at that for now. Call test failover. Give it a next. Power on sequences. So this is where you can kind of get really neat and really nest things down and change the boot order of things. So again, I don't want to really go into this. I kind of went on autopilot there. But you can see that there's a lot to configure to automate the process. So when you go click the failover button on your plan, there's planned and unplanned methods, by the way. One is the site's down, just go with the last snapshot that's in the recovery site. And the other one is graceful shutdown of the VMs, boot up the other site after one more snapshot is sent over the wire, that sort of thing. More of a graceful failover. So again, planned. Let's go take a look at managing some clusters here. So again, I've got multiple sites, multiple environments, multiple clusters. So AWS is on 6.0. Let's see, 30. Let's go update 30 because he is on, he's on the LTS branch 5.20.3. Let's just go ahead and give him an update. So you can see from here, I can launch Prism Element. I get a lot of metrics about the cluster itself, VM efficiency data. Again, my VMs aren't working very hard or at all, so there's not a lot to do there. They're really just there to show you how things work. I can, again, like with the VM-centric views, I can enable and disable some of the anomaly information. But really, I didn't want to focus on that. I want to focus on this button right here. So we're going to click Upgrade Software. We're going to select the version. So the only version I'm going to go to right now is a point version. We're going to click Upgrade. Yes, we know. I don't think that's the one where my PC is hosted. Well, let's go double check. Ha! I'm glad I checked. That is the one where my PC is hosted. So let's not do 30. Let's do the other one. Thank you for the warning, Nutanix. You guys got my back. So let's go to 58 and click on Upgrade Software. Yes. Now we'll go. I've checked. Let's rock and roll. Okay, I've told that cluster to update. And as you can see, I can tell multiples to update to. Like I'm doing all the things from one UI. It's what I said we would do. You can see I've got my storage usage views. Not a lot to show you here that's super exciting because there's no real data here. I can show you the individual host and their information. That's pretty much straightforward. We can look at virtual entities, containers. So this is our storage containers. See this button here? That's new, huh? So I can actually create and manage storage containers now in Prism Central. That is a new feature, whereas before to create any kind of new storage container in Nutanix and then turn on the various data efficiencies, I had to go into the Prism element to do so. It is now in Prism Central. More and more, I leverage Prism Central to do literally all the things once everything's established. So that guy's running. You can see I've got an update task over here, downloading software. It's going to download it to the local cluster, and then it's going to do the update. So we're going to let that bake because we're not going to sit there and stare at a loading bar. That is boring. So we've covered VM deployment, or overview of the UI, kind of what's new. We've looked at the VM deployment. We've looked at some security policies and the DR I'm using between my multiple environments. What else can we look at that is pretty cool today? LCM, Lifecycle Manager, is pretty cool. Said I've updated it recently to get a pull of the inventory. Here's best practices. We require these firewall ports. Click this link, update your software. Basically, when you do an inventory, you can auto-update NCC and you can auto-update LCM. So yes, let's do that. You can also specify a specific time for it. So if you got bandwidth concerns or something during the day, you can definitely make that change accordingly. Once you run the inventory, it's going to give you this. I can see all the software-centric view things that I have to worry about software-wise in my environment via Prism Central. One thing you still have to manage via Prism Element today is your firmware and BIOS. through LCM in the appropriate Prism element. But Prism Central, you're handling all the service level things. So you can see here I've got 3 pieces of software that I'm pretty out of date. Version 1, here's version 2, version 2.2, version 2.4, 3. You get the idea. And a link to release notes. So I can just easily click something like Files Manager and go ahead and make the update. So if I click on this guy here, View Update Plan, it's going to tell you what I'm doing. So if I was doing multiple things, it would tell you the stages. LCM will upgrade the Files Manager PC in a rolling fashion. Let's apply the one update. Rock and roll. Now I'm going to update my underlying files management. Pretty slick, right? So again, those are kind of the highlights of what I really wanted to showcase today, was just the UI and what we're able to do when you're managing multiple environments. I do have some protection domains created in one of these guys here. I believe you can see here, fail over to AWS. So this is another example of where I have some replication going from AWS, or from a local environment to AWS. So here's my local snapshots. I can see my remote snapshots in AWS. Here you go. I can see those here if I go to my AWS and go to data protection. Same thing, it would be local this time. Here's my snapshots. I wish I can restore this snapshot to this machine. So I can click this guy here, say create a new entity with this clone prefix. And now I've just used a protection domain to migrate a virtual machine from one site to another one. How about that? So this would be good if I had some application that was needed to be moved around, or I needed to spin up a small project-based cluster in AWS, because I might hibernate it later, because you can actually hibernate the entire cluster to save compute. Perhaps it was an application that's not ready to be refactored to the cloud, but I really need to have it next to other cloud resources. Maybe I've got some platform services or file services or some other construct that's up there, or I need to leverage some of the private networking I've built within my VPC. So with that being said, I can now deploy Nutanix in that cloud, Azure coming, yay. But the idea is we'll be able to do that across, across the cloud, across on-prem, to manage those workloads. And again, there are more things that are becoming more cloud native. So again, our objects tier, so that's S3, that's a cloud native technology. Same thing for Kubernetes. If you're running containerized systems, that's another one, of course. We do partner very well with OpenShift, by the way. So if you're really interested in going deep with containers, I highly recommend reaching out to your Red Hat OpenShift team or your Nutanix team on that partnership, because we are friends, and OpenShift runs very well on our hyperconverged platform. Availability zones. This is where I'm just kind of looking around now. If I had multiple availability zones, I would have multiple Prism Central instances. So it could be either a physical location or basically another PC, or the Xyleap cloud service. So this would be our disaster recovery as a service. So I do not have a subscription today to test with, but that's where you would configure it. And then you would just go to your policy here, your protection policy, and be able to use that as a new AZ when you're doing your topology. The other thing I want to showcase, because I'm not sure if I did. Here we go. Virtual private clouds. I have to enable advanced networking, and it means I've got to go do a thing that's going to take a minute. So Prism Central Management, I've got to go and turn on microservice infrastructure, and tell you what, let's go do that right quickly. Actually, let's just click this button and drill through, because why? Let's save time. So you can see here under the settings menu, this is where I can scale up or out, or scale out my Prism Central instance. So let's say I need to make it more powerful because my environment's grown, and I'm at a point where you can see this is managing 36 VMs of a potential 1,200 and a half or so. I've grown beyond that. I need to scale out. So I can scale out to a 3 VM cluster for more capacity, but it also adds resiliency, because now we're going to treat PC like we do our other products, where we're going to take a highly available update cycle, where we're going to do a rolling update cycle to get through that process. So that's pretty cool. Disaster recovery. PC is not protected. This is one of the caveats of turning on the micro infrastructure. So data that we backed up is the core infrastructure, Leap, DR, Flow, Prism Pro. We will not get column blueprints, VM, templates, alerts, some other things. So, they're still working on that stuff. But that it does tell you what's not included if you back it up today. So I'm gonna click on continue. Yes, let's back it up to AWS because it's on the right version. It's on 6.0 or higher. So there you go. But if I go and enable this, it's gonna probably yell at me because new PC login is required. Enabling this process will impact services. Oh, I swear earlier I saw it said it would impact Prism Central backup. So that must have been before I did my update because I've been playing with this all day. Okay, so scratch that. But we're gonna let this bake. But this is where I can enable the microservices infrastructure, which would then give me access to that advanced networking to start to create private clouds. So enable advanced networking. All the tools are here, fellas and ladies. All the tools are here. There's one last thing I wanted to show you. And in typical Rob fashion, I am drawing a blank. I have not had my Red Bull today. All right, so our update is still in process of upgrading. That's cool. These two have succeeded. So those guys are still rolling. Let's just check our task list up here. All right. Okay, that is almost done doing the upgrade task for the 58 cluster that we've got going to the point release. All right, we got 66, so it's cruising. So things are moving. Let's go double check our Prism Central settings. I want to go double check. It's still syncing that. So we've got a few actions that are just kind of baking right now. Role-based mapping, all that stuff's still here. I don't really focus on that. That's not interesting. Yeah, we've touched a few different things. So we said we're managing the environment. We're actively managing a multi-cloud environment by clicking through some menus. So again, we've deployed some VMs. We've got DR going in multiple ways. We're updating our AOS in a cluster. We're backing up our Prism Central to another cluster. We're cooking with gas, y'all. We've looked at our VM list. We've created some protection categories here just to show you guys. No, not AZs. I clicked categories. No, I didn't click AZs. I said categories. Come on, Chrome. Don't do this to me. All right, well, that sucks. That is funny. Ha, sucker. I'll go that way. Might have been an update relic. Anyways, so what we're looking at here is some categories. So we can go create a new one. We can call it Red Bull Racing, purpose, winning. Yeah, if you guys actually follow F1, you'll know why that's funny. Value. So this is where you create your sub values, right? So we're going to say new value P1. Click new value. Would you please get in the field? All right, click save. I don't know why you're there, but go away. All right. So you'll see when we go look at our new category, here's the name, and here are my values, basically my subtypes. And again, I can create assigned policies to them. You can see this one here, quarantine. I've got 2 assigned policies to quarantine. Environment, I have 1 protection policy assigned to that environment. So you're able to see what's applied to them without having to, hunt around too much. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys with that. I mean, there's a lot more that we could look at. Cost management requires additional setup. and a Beam subscription, because that's the tool used, the engine used for that. That's included in the ultimate level of our licensing. Floating IP security policies. Yeah, that's really, oh, I got one more thing. I know I haven't built any templates yet. Okay, let's go make a template. Which one of you guys will let me do it? Can I use this guy? Let's just prep him. Well, let's not sysprep him because I don't have any of that info ready. I have to go build it and hunt it down. All right, so we had the script already, but I don't. So we click save. It's going to basically clone that down into a template. So now, once that completes, under my templates menu, which I thought was under here, but my eyes might be, oh, my eyes found it, y'all. All right, here we go. So as soon as that's done, I will have my first template in a version that we can look at right quick. So we'll just let that cook for a moment. This might be the section of the video where in editing I speed it up a little bit. Oh, it got mad. I bet you I know why too. So let's go look and see why. Failed to look up snapshot for PC. That's interesting. I wonder if that's because, I wonder if he was on the wrong cluster and he was in the middle of this update process. He says PC, huh? All right, here we go. Let's go try a different one. Let's see what machine that was on. He was on 30. Let's try the move VM. Just let me see what happens here. Yeah, I could have made a video and made it all super duper pretty, but we're gonna find the bumps in the road too. It's one of those things when you have a production environment and you know all of your IP schemas and AD and usernames and passwords and where your scripts are. It's a lot, a lot easier to do this kind of stuff when you're on the fly trying to be like, well, let me see what I do. Ha! Done. So yeah, it was probably because that cluster's in the middle of an update process, so it's not super happy. I should have known better. Here we go. Move VM. There it is. If I highlight this guy and click on actions, I can now update the configuration. I can delete it. I can create a version. So here's my initial version. And I can go call it version whatever. I can go, or not version whatever. I'm going to go manipulate it right now for this initial version. If I need to change the size of the template, maybe we decide that we start deploying this template. I really want more RAM. Maybe make that change. Where I need to do different configuration. Where I need to, well, you can see it's already got a tag because it was from production. Those sorts of things. If I go back to here and click on Update Guest OS. So right here, it's going to basically create a new version based on the guest OS. This will be the initial version. So this process will deploy a VM to access. I will log in and access that, update it. I may access the VM before the required updates. Once done, return to the template version and confirm to complete the update. And that will then have my, my updated image. So let's go and click on proceed. Let's let him do his thing. So now this guy is deployed on, where did I put you? He should be on 30. I've already got it mixed up, y'all. I just want to use this to verify where he's at. You know what? I don't even need to do that. I can do this instead. So let's go to my VMs. Uncheck my move VM here. There's my clone failover VM. Is he still baking? VM template initiate guest changes. It is still baking. Well, let's clean up those tasks. Anyways, we'll let all that bake. I think I have used enough time, but you can see I've got a template. I can create more templates. Oh, here's my versions. So I'm on this active version. After the update process, you would see the next version. I'm able to switch between versions and also clean up versions too. So that's a cool thing that we now have, true template management besides using the image configuration or OVAs as to, basically create one and deploy that mechanism. We now have a template system as well. So again, it's been kind of fun messing around with this and poking the bear, so to speak. And I've got some updates in there. Can I actually see this now? Or are you still baking? Still baking. But I showed you again what we're doing with multiple cloud management. I've got, again, 3 sites, one on AWS. We've done updates. We've done cluster updates, VM updates. We've done a template. We've looked at replication, 2 different ways of replicating. We've looked at some new features, some neat tips and tricks. So I know it's probably a lot, and I'm hopping around in more of a kind of a fluid way than a structured presentation. That's kind of how I do things. But I just wanted to kind of show, as I've been doing my own labs here, I thought, hey, let's just throw up a video and kind of show everybody what I'm doing as we're learning this. And again, just keep in mind that the capabilities of NCM or Prism Central, like NCM is what we call it now. Well, the feature sets and license levels, that is very capable, right? So like in my last video, we were talking about high level architecture. We didn't get into things like the self-service portal for application lifecycle that changes things, where I'm deploying things across the environment in multiple clouds. We didn't really go into files or any of the data-driven systems. And we're just talking kind of about infrastructure management. And that's kind of what we looked at today. So thanks for hanging out. Hopefully my rambling wasn't too absurd. If it was, it is what it is. I enjoyed it anyways. If anything, it helps me think. So there's that. But again, thanks for hanging out. I hope it was kind of worth your while, and again, somewhat entertaining. It's just a cool tool, and since I was a customer back in the day, when PC first came out, it was a neat tool to have, and it did help a lot of things. But it's become the one-stop shop. I can do everything I need to do in my environment from here. Like, what did I do with Prism Element today? I just confirmed a couple things, showed you guys this protection domain, data protection for this one cluster. We kind of validated some of the VMs here, but I can see all the same stuff in the Prism Central environment. So just keep that in your mind, that especially those of you who are existing Nutanix customers, it's all converging, right? And becoming, again, you go to one place to manage things. So it's pretty exciting. I'm pretty happy with it. So again, thanks for y'all's time. And until the next interesting thing pops up and I do a crazy video, have a good one, and we'll talk then.